Newsflash for you, everyone thinks you need 6 months, a computer science degree, and $50,000 to spend on a development team to build a mobile app. Well, not anymore, Mom. In fact, I was one of those people that did actually pay a development team hundreds of thousands of dollars to build an app once. But hey, you live and learn. And now I've helped hundreds of creators and entrepreneurs launch their very own app for the first time, which is pretty cool. And so in this video, I want to prove to you that with modern AI tools, we can go from a notebook sketch to an actual functioning app in less than an hour. And it's not going to be some dumb Hello World app where the app just loads up, but it doesn't actually do anything. It'll be something that you'd actually consider using. So by the end of this video, you will have an app prototype and an understanding of how to start building on top of it. And if you stick around to the end, I will give you my exact framework for going from idea to fully fledged, ready to go app in an easily digested format that you can just pass to an AI coding tool. So let's hop in. So there's going to be 3 tools that we use for this process. The first one is Lovable. Now, what Lovable is going to allow us to do is it is going to allow us to mock up our user interface, meaning before we get to the point of actually building an app, we want to see approximately what is this thing going to look like, right? So we're going to spend the time in a visual editor building this thing out, and then we will transfer what we have built to an actual coding tool that can do the work for us to build the thing out. Now, before we get to doing that, what we need to do is we need to really flesh out our idea, right? So we have this vague kind of idea for an app that you likely have. It's maybe floating around in your brain, and we want to translate that to something. Now, my inspiration for this app, I will put the screenshots up above my face right now. I drew out a basic interface of what I think I want this thing to look like. So it's going to be a basic AI-enabled voice note-taking app where I can record a voice note for up to 30 minutes. It can then use AI to transcribe that voice note, and then it can make it so that I can intelligently query those notes in the future, meaning I can ask questions to those notes and have conversations, connect ideas together, all of that type of stuff. But before I give these images to the system, I need to flesh this idea out a little bit. And so we have this prompt here, which I will make available for you in the description below. And you're just going to copy this entire thing. You don't need to really worry about what it says right now. And then we're going to get down to this section, which is where we have our main idea and then our MVP. So you always want to start this stuff at the MVP stage, meaning minimum viable product. What is the smallest version of this thing that would still be valuable to somebody? Now, I know that this is it for me because I pay for a tool that does a worse job at doing this thing. And so I'm trying to replace this for myself right now. So for the idea, we want to build a mobile app where a user can record 30 minutes of audio, which gets transcribed and gets stored into memory as a note. Pretty simple. And then we want to be able to store it in a way that the AI can read it so that the user can chat with past notes. So what is the idea for the MVP? User signs up, they land on this screen where it's clear to them that they can start recording something. They then start recording and it gives them some sort of indication that the recording has started. When they're done, the result gets processed. The user can then chat with those notes and they can view those notes. And then the bottom is going to have this nav bar with 4 different options. They can view past notes, they can start a recording, they can chat with their notes, or they can go and look at settings. So after we've done that, it is going to break down our app idea. So it's going to go through an elevator pitch, what it's intended to do, the main problem that it solves, because if you want to be able to take this and turn it into something that will actually make you money as like a micro SaaS, it needs to solve a very specific problem for a very specific type of person. If you don't have that in place, it's not really going to sell. So then we have our target audience, our unique selling proposition, and then we get into this feature list. And so what it's going to do is it's going to list out all of our primary features, right? From the authentication and onboarding, what needs to be there. How does the audio recording and processing happen? How did the notes management happen? What does the AI chat look like? And so on. And then if you use this prompt that I'm giving you, it's going to have these critical questions. And so what you want to do is if you go back and forth and answer these questions about 5 or 6 times, eventually it's going to resolve down and say, okay, you are ready to go. You've answered all the questions that it had for you, and then it's ready to rock to the next stage. So after we're there, there's one more prompt. And again, this prompt will be below the video. You literally don't have to touch anything. You just paste this exact thing in, And what this is doing is it's taking one of my slightly more advanced prompts from a different video I've done, and you're just pasting it in to say, hey, and use this as an example. And so what this is going to do is it is going to make you a new prompt, okay? So it's going to make you a new prompt that breaks down some of our features in a little bit more detail, but specifically it's telling the system how to think about designing this thing. So we're taking some best practices in the design world and we're forcing it into the system. And so what we're going to do is we're going to copy this entire thing, and then we're going to move on to the next stage, which is going back to Lovable. So just to show you guys, these are the 3 images that I'm passing into the system. So this is like the main recording screen where I imagine there's something in the middle, like a button or something where they can start the recording. And then in the bottom, we have these 4 little toggles for being able to nav to different screens. This is what it looks like on a past note screen where we have these different cards. And then this is what the AI chat looks like, where it's, we can just chat back and forth. So this is what I'm giving to the system. Now, one other little icing on the cake that you can add in here is a tool called Mob.design. So what Mob.design is they just collect screens of every major app really that you can think of. So Spotify, Airbnb, ChatGPT, whatever it might be, they just go in, they download those apps, and then they look at all of the screens, right? So we can see like literally every single screen inside of the app. And so if you see an app that you're kind of inspired by a little bit, or you think it looks nice for what you want to do, you can literally come in and just download some of those screens. So say we liked Medium, for example, you can literally come in here and then you can just download screen, download screen, download screen, okay? And then we're just gonna pass that screen into Lovable when we go to build this thing. So at this point, all we're gonna do is we're gonna take that prompt that we had copied from our Claude in this case, we're gonna take that prompt, we're gonna paste it in, and then we are going to attach our images. So I'm going to attach those 3 drawings of here's how I want my screens to look. And I'm also going to attach, I downloaded 4 ChatGPT screens, and we're going to see what this looks like. So you're going to select open, which is going to load these all in here. And then once these are loaded, we are just going to hit go, and we are going to see what it designs for us. All right, so after a few minutes of processing, this is what we have. So we have this little splash screen here getting started. Now, obviously, we have some like generic logos and things like that because it's not making some incredibly unique logo for us, right? So this is something where if we wanted this floating thing, for example, to be the actual logo of our app, we'd have to go do that separately. But still pretty cool that it's building in this interactivity and has this nice little splash screen for us. As we continue to scroll down, we can see what some of these interfaces look like. So if we wanted to start a voice recording, for example, we can hit that play button and then we can see it's got some interactivity in here. This would obviously be a real countdown. So right now, again, we're just mocking up what we kind of want this thing to look like. If we were to hit pause, we can see that it turns into this yellow state. And then if we were to hit that stop button, it stops the recording process. Now, if we keep scrolling down over here, we have this notes section. So this is where it would be storing our notes of things we've recorded. Now, obviously, I can't click in here or anything, so this is probably one of the next things that I would want to build. What happens when I click on a note? It should bring me like into a note view. And then we have a mock-up of a chat, which honestly looks pretty tight, looks pretty clean. So now from here, there's 2 ways that we can continue to build on top of this. I would say that if you're, again, a beginner, what you want to do is try to flesh out what this experience is going to kind of flow like while you're inside of Lovable, because it's going to be a lot easier when you can see what's happening. So for example, what I want to happen is that I should be able to click into one of these now. Like if I want to go in and see the full transcript or see a summary of it or do whatever, I need to be able to click in and actually interact with that, which obviously I can't do yet. And so what I'm going to say is let's continue working on this feature to flesh it out a bit more. When we're in the note screen and we click on a note, it should take me into the detailed view, right? So I'm just telling it like, hey, I should be able to now like go do this other thing. And so what happens is Lovable goes out and they do exactly what we just asked. And so if we were to come back in here now and I were to actually click on this, now we can see I'm in this new view, which has the raw transcript and then also has this AI summary, which is pretty cool. Now, this AI summary feature, it's not exactly what I actually want this thing to look like in the end, but it's fine because we at least have this molding of what we want so that when we export it out of this tool, which we're about to do, and use it on our own computer, we can get in and we can start actually messing around with things and using a lot more powerful tools to really dial this thing in. So that is what we are going to do next. So in order to get this thing working on our local computer, all we need is a GitHub account. So you can pause the video and go get one, or if you already have one, good for you. Now, if you run into errors with any of these commands that we're about to go through as we go into the terminal and start trying to install things, I have guides for all of these steps inside of the free school group, which is linked in the description below, where I will show you how to install Node on your computer from scratch, how to install NPM, how to install anything that we're really using in here. Expo, we'll have guides showing you how to do all of that type of stuff. And you can ask questions if you run into problems in the group as well. So we can come up here, we can hit this sync your project to GitHub option and say connect. And then once you have done that, it's going to give you this URL here, which you want to just copy. Then we can go into our terminal. So now whether you're on a Mac or Windows, you have an app like this called a terminal. And so we want to go in and we just want to go into any project. So you would create a folder and you want to go into that folder. So for example, my folder build app in 13 minutes. And then we're going to type in git clone and then paste in that URL. And so what that's going to do is it's going to go and it's going to pull that entire project down onto our computer. So step one, we just downloaded that project that we had from Lovable. We pushed it to GitHub. We just downloaded it to our computer. Step two is that we need to have a coding library that allows us to build mobile apps easily. And so the one that we are going to use is called Expo. And the reason we are doing that is it builds in something called React Native. React Native allows us to build apps for iOS and Android at the exact same time, which is pretty cool. So what we're going to do is inside of that same folder that we just downloaded our project into, we're going to type in this command, npx create-expo-app @latest, and then put a space and name what the project is going to be. So in this case, I'm just naming it voice. Now, after that's done, again, if you're on a Mac, if you were to type ls, it's going to show you all of the stuff that's inside of a folder that you're in. We can see we have the project I downloaded from my GitHub from Lovable, and then we have this voice repository. Now, the last major thing that we need to do is that we need to tell the app that we built in Lovable, which is like a web-based project. It's not a mobile app yet. We need to tell it to build it as a React Native app. And so in order to do that, we're going to need an AI-based coding environment, which I would recommend if you are a beginner to use something like Cursor, which has a free trial. So if you were to head over to cursor.com, this is where you would need to go. You can download it. If you were to go look at the pricing, you get a 2-week free pro trial, which should be all you need for what we are about to do. After you have this downloaded, you want to open up Cursor on your computer, and then you want to open up that folder that we had that had both of these things in there. So if you remember, we added that React Native Expo into this folder, and we also cloned the GitHub repository into this folder. So here's what we are going to do. We're going to go into the chat interface within Cursor so that we can chat with the AI agent in this case. And then we're going to paste in this prompt, which again, you'll have access to below the video. And so this prompt, all you need to update is the names of your directories, right? So we're going to say, hey, we have this directory called voice, which is that Expo app, the React Native Expo app. And then we have this directory called Whisper Scribe Lab, in my case, which was what we had in Lovable, which we pushed to GitHub and downloaded. So we have both of these, and your job is to take the designs from that Lovable web app and turn them into a mobile app design, okay? After we have done this and we have it all working in a mobile app, we're going to start building the functionality and the features behind it. And so we can see here, guys, that this created a to-do list and it's just jamming through it. So it created a to-do list of everything that it would need to do in order to execute on what we asked. And it is just going through task by task and then crossing them off when it's done. So we will come back once this is actually done. I think it's been maybe 3 or 4 minutes since I submitted that, and it's just kind of jamming through. So we will come back in a second once this is complete. All right, guys, so it just got complete with that. So it went through this entire thing, and you can see I haven't touched it since I sent this prompt, this exact prompt we went through. So boom, it was there, and then it just went through, and it did its whole thing. All right, it's doing its entire thing. It's creating all the files, checking off its to-do list. It's doing the entire thing, and now it's got to this point where it thinks it's done, and it's saying, hey, let's start this thing up and see if it works. So that is what we're going to do. So what we need to do is go back to our terminal and we need to go into that directory. And so the way you do that on like a Unix operating system, like on a Mac, for example, is by typing in CD and then the name of the directory you're trying to go to. So if I say CD voice, it's going to take me into the voice directory. And now in order to kick this thing off with Expo, we just type npm start and it's going to go through. Now, the reason this big QR code thing is here is if I wanted to actually run this like on my phone right now, I could scan this QR code and this app would be loaded onto my phone so I could test it, which is pretty cool. But let's say we want to open this in like an iOS simulator. All I need to do is type the letter I and let's see if it works. It's loading it up, and boom. So there we go. So now that we're full screen, we can see if this thing actually works. So we have our voice note screen. We can hit get started. And now we're in like an interface. So I noticed like some things obviously have changed. This isn't doing its whole animated little dance thing that it did, but it cloned pretty much everything else over, right? So there's no edit functionality. There's no ask AI about it. We can hook that stuff up later, but the AI summary is here. We got the raw transcript, different buttons for like uploading it, sharing it, all of that. We have our mocked up AI chat. So all in all, it did a really good job at just cloning over what we had. It also actually built out a settings page, which we didn't have in there anyway to begin with. So pretty cool. A few little small things I want to change. I don't want the record button over on the left. I want it smack center in the middle. But again, this is just a UI mockup. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to think about how can we start building the functionality that we need into this. So basically what we're asking for it to do is to make a very minimal MVP of the following functionality, okay? And you can, again, you'll be able to just copy this. The only part you need to fill in is the stuff down here based on what your app actually is. And do not make this too wild. Try to be pretty concise with what you're asking. We can always go back through, create a new chat, and iterate. So try to be concise about what you are asking. And again, guys, we can see it made its plan, and it is just grooving and moving. So I will come back once this is done, and we'll see if we got it to work right off the bat or not, because sometimes it does not always work right off the bat. And then we'll take it from there. All right, guys, so it just finished. That maybe took in real world minutes, probably like 7 minutes. I think that thing was probably running, doing all of this. The one thing I've noticed, though, inside of my terminal is that it's giving me an error that my OpenAI key's not there, even though it is. And so I'm going to really quickly try to figure out why that's happening. And then we will open this thing up and see if it works. And so I'm literally just pasting this in. I'm saying, hey, I have this key. It's inside of /voice.end. I'm not sure why I'm getting errors that the API key is not found, which is right here. So just figure that out for me, and then we'll let it go from here. All right, guys, so we fixed that environment variable, the API key. So let's see what this looks like. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, my name is Sean. I am so cool. Okay, so we can pause it. We can see the state changes a little bit. If we hit this process button, it says it's transcribing the audio. And there we go. So transcription, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, my name is Sean. I'm so cool. So that's pretty cool, right? Because we didn't go in and configure any of this voice recording type stuff. So we could say, okay, now if we go into notes, we should see, which we do, the transcripts coming through. But the note is not actually being found when we click in. So we got a little state management issue there. And so what I would do from here is pop back in. So now that's what we need to fix where the notes aren't showing. So we can say inside of my apps note list view, when I click on a specific note, the note details should load into the view. Currently, it is blank. So we're going to let that run. And basically, again, what we're trying to fix here is that when I click into this, like it should not say no note found, right? Because there's a note there. And so this is what we are trying to fix now. Now, while that is rolling through, one other thing we can test. So we built this AI assistant, if you remember that. So we could ask it a question to see if it's actually using the language model. So we could say like, what's the furthest known galaxy from Earth? I don't know the answer to this, actually. I'd be curious to know the answer. GNZ11. Maybe there's someone on GNZ11 right now trying to vibe code an app. 13.4 billion light years. So there you have it, guys. A very basic app implementation where we were able to go from start to mostly finished pretty quickly. So there's a few more things that we would sit here and dial in following that same exact pretty simple process that we were following. And then there's a few things that we would probably want to add on top of this. We'd want to add user authentication so that we can actually log in and log out and other people can register. We'd probably want to improve the UI and the UX. It looks a little bit basic, so we would want to go through an exercise, which I have a bunch of on my channel, where we would do that type of thing and make it really pop and really look professional. we'd want to actually make sure we're employing some sort of like security exercise to make sure that it's not super easy for someone to just break in and steal all of our users' stuff. And then number 4, we'd want to actually get it in the hands of real users, real people, to see if they enjoy this thing and what we would want to continue building toward in the future. So if you want more detailed guides that can take us from kind of what we did today, but on a much more advanced level where we can build a lot bigger things, make sure to subscribe to the channel because that is exactly the type of stuff that I like to do. And of course, all of the prompts that we went through in this video will be given away for free in the description below. So that's it. I will see you next time.